Everyone wants to go on vacation, and you're thinking about planning a cruise vacation, but then you see all these reports that the cost of travel is soaring, with flying costs up almost 43%, and hotels are charging crazy high rates for rooms, with some markets up more than 20%. So, is a cruise ship vacation a better and more affordable vacation option? Here's how expensive Royal Caribbean Cruise is right now, up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we all know that a family vacation is rarely cheap. But is a cruise vacation still one of the best values, relatively speaking, out there? To that point, you might be curious just how expensive a cruise vacation is these days. Will it cost you thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars? And how much more of a deal is it to go on a cruise? I want to talk today about what the industry is seeing in terms of value, as well as breaking down what you can expect in terms of what a Royal Caribbean cruise will cost you, from cabin to excursions to dining and more. That way, you know what kind of cost you can expect for a cruise at the end of your 2022 and well into 2023. Whether you're planning a cruise in the next few months or later in 2023, hopefully your vacation budget numbers will line up with getting the best deal you can. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the value, because going on a cruise is one of the best travel values out there. During Royal Caribbean Group's most recent earnings call with investors, CEO Jason Liberty said the difference between a cruise and land vacations is wider than it was ever before. Quote, "We've seen this 40% gap to land-based vacations this year. It used to be about 20%, end quote. And Mr. Liberty's comment isn't really that far-fetched. In a recent analysis, travel insurance comparison site InsureMyTrip.com pegged the differential around 30%, noting the real-time data it had on what customers were paying showed the average land trip costing anywhere between $6,000 and about $1,400 more than the average cruise. In case you're wondering, travel insurance companies will have access to how much people pay for a cruise or a land vacation in this case, because customers have to tell them how much they paid for their cruise in order to get a quote for travel insurance. There's a lot of reasons why cruises are so much cheaper than land vacations right now, such as the prolonged shutdown of the cruise industry in 2020, which had a really big impact on the industry because it left demand a little softer compared to land hotels that did not have to shut down and they were able to operate normally during that time. In addition to that, cruise ships normally book up much further in advance than other types of travel, and that means that a blip in bookings at any given time will affect occupancy levels on ships many months, if not a year or more, in the future. Now that you have a better understanding of the pricing gap between a cruise and land vacation, here's what you need to know about cruise pricing. The first thing you're going to consider after picking the dates for your trip is which ship you'll sail on and what cabin to book. We're talking really about the base cruise fare. This is the cruise fare as your starting point, as what you'll be quoted by your travel agent when you pick your particular ship that you're going on. The fare includes the cost of your stateroom, taxes, fees, and port expenses. If you prefer, it can also include gratuity and even trip insurance. Now, depending on the ship, the sail date, and the length of the cruise, and the number of people in your cabin, your cruise fare can vary wildly. On Royal Caribbean, the cheapest cruise fares might come in at around $200 or $250 per person and can go up from there. Typically, you should expect to spend closer to $50 per person per night on an inside room and around $200 per person per night for a balcony room. Again, there's a lot of variation in here, and it's really going to depend. So please don't take these numbers as gospel truth, as what you expect. It's really going to depend on what you end up choosing in terms of the ship, itinerary, how many people, all this we talked about a little bit earlier. To help you get a lower price on your cruise fare, you really want to book your cruise early. If you can book your sailing 12, 18, or even 24 months in advance, you're likely going to pay much less than somebody that waits to book their cruise just a few months before the cruise. The reason is it comes down to something we talked about already earlier, which is the fact you'll get the lowest price when a sailing's put on sale, as all the staterooms are available to book, and thus demand is at its lowest. But as the cabins get booked up, and this typically happens much more in advance than hotels, you're going to find prices go up over time. So typically, we see prices go up for a sailing as you get closer to the sail date. Moreover, if you live in a country that allows rebooking prior to your final payment date, like residents of the US or Canada, you can always take advantage of price drops if they were to occur and get the new lowest price as long as you do so before the final payment date. Now let's talk about shore excursions, because the cost of exploring places you visit can also be a significant source of your vacation budget. You could spend hundreds on a bucket list worthy excursion, or simply walk around on your own and save a little money. The choice of shore excursions is quite varied. You can choose between beach days, walking tours, zip lines, ATV rides, sightseeing, and more. When choosing an excursion, you have the choice of booking a tour through Royal Caribbean or going on your own and working with a third-party vendor. In terms of budget, Be sure to also carry some cash and a credit card with you when you get off the ship for incidentals and tips along the way. Sometimes tours will actually require final payment before the tour begins, so you want to plan accordingly. So, how much will shore excursions cost you? Well, again, it depends on your taste. Just like the cruise cabin that you pick, or the ship you sail on, or the itinerary you choose from, there's a wide variety of excursions that are out there. And again, you can actually simply walk off the ship and do things on your own and just, walk around and not spend a ton on there. Or you can really go to town, like places like Alaska, where you can take seaplanes or a helicopter to a glacier. You're going to pay hundreds of dollars per person for those kinds of tours. But the good news is there's a wide variety of budget options that are there. And whether you're looking to do a tour on your own or you're looking to go through the cruise line for them, I think you'll find a fair amount of choices that are there. In addition to all of this, you want to make sure you plan in advance. One of the best ways to save money on a shore excursion is to plan your shore excursions before the cruise. Don't wait till you get on board the ship to actually book your shore excursions. Rather, what you want to do is you want to have that well in advance, look at all the options available, both through the cruise line and on your own, and then have a plan of action. That way, you can budget for it properly. Next up, let's talk about food and drink, starting with the food, of course, because while not all the food on a Royal Caribbean cruise is included, there is enough food and drink for you to enjoy that is included, so you don't have to pay extra for food at all. However, you may feel inclined to pay for drinks or meals anyway as a way to enhance your cruise. Now, depending on the ship you sail on, the exact venues with complimentary, aka included food, will certainly vary, but we're talking about places like the main dining room, the Windjammer Cafe, a grab-and-go coffee shop place like maybe Cafe Promenade or Cafe 270, or even pool deck quick food like El Loco Fresh or Boardwalk Doghouse or Park Cafe, right? These are places that are included with your cruise fare, and pretty much everything on the menu is part of what you paid for, so you can go there and get unlimited food for the meals available. And that certainly means you can find food and drink for both breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as times of the day where you want maybe just a snack, whether it is early in the morning, late night, or what have you. Going back to our budget here, there is another option, and that is specialty dining. Some guests will opt to spend extra for specialty restaurants offered on board. Specialty restaurants offer cuisines and cooking styles not available otherwise. We're talking about steakhouses, Italian food, hibachi, sushi, and more. Most specialty restaurants have a cover charge that includes all the food on the menu, although there are some restaurants that are priced a la carte. Basically, what you order is what you pay for. Think of specialty dining like you would for going out for dinner versus staying at home and cooking something there. You'd be perfectly content with a home-cooked meal, but going out for dinner is a nice treat that comes with a higher cost. If you're going to dine at one or two specialty restaurants, you can simply pay for the cost on board or pre-book those restaurants via Royal Caribbean's Cruise Planner site. But if you know you want to dine at a few specialty restaurants during your cruise, well then, a dining package is a great way to save money. It will absolutely save you money with a dining package compared to trying to eat at 3, 4, 5 or more specialty restaurants on the same cruise. The difference is, of course, well, number one, do you want to spend extra for all those meals? And number two, do you want to have all those extra meals there? Because that is a lot of food. Now, in terms of drinks, the good news is that Royal Caribbean includes a lot of drinks with your cruise. So really what you're talking about in terms of drinks that are included with your cruise, we're talking about tap water, milk, tea, coffee, both regular and decaf, lemonade, iced tea, flavored waters, juices at breakfast and not fresh squeezed, and of course, hot chocolate via instant packets. Now, that is totally fine for most people, and you'll get everything you need, and you won't be parched of thirst at any point during your cruise, and there is plenty of it available to you. But in addition to that, you might want to have a budget for the drinks that you're going to want to include. Because, of course, for a lot of people, going on a cruise is not only just enjoying a glass of water or a cup of coffee, but it's really about, I think, cocktails and beers and the kind of drinks that you imagine when you're on a pool deck or you're in one of these tropical locations right there. So you have two choices when it comes to drinks not included with your cruise fare. Pay for each drink a la carte or buy a drink package. If you'll only have a drink or two here or there, paying for a drink as you go is definitely the way to go. Alternatively, a Royal Caribbean drink package can provide unlimited beverages for a fixed cost. Not only is this a budget-friendly way to lock in costs, but the drink package provides peace of mind and convenience for a lot of people who prefer not to be bothered with trying to balance their costs and risk spending more than they anticipate at the end of the cruise. All right, so how much are drinks going to be on a cruise versus how much is the drink package going to cost? That's a pretty good question right there. A single beer will cost you between $7.49 and $7.99, depending on if it's an American beer or an import beer. A glass of wine between $9 and $25 per glass. Bottled water is about $2.25. A cocktail is going to cost somewhere between $10 and $14. Again, it depends on the exact brand of liquor and whatnot. Hard cider between $7 and $8. Can of soda is $3.25 each. The drink of the day is right around $10 or so. And a latte will cost you about $4.25. The drink packages will certainly vary quite a bit, but the deluxe beverage package, aka the unlimited alcohol package, will cost somewhere between $65 and $90 per person per day. The refreshment package, which is the non-alcoholic package, will cost between $29 and $38 per person per day. And the classic soda package is about $12.99 to $15 per person per day. Again, the prices really do depend on the type of cruise you're going on. Short cruises versus long cruises. Shorter cruises is probably going to cost you more per day versus a longer sailing. New ship versus older ship. A couple other factors in there altogether. Another potential budgetary cost you should keep in mind for a cruise vacation is Wi-Fi internet access on board, because I think a lot of people are finding internet access more and more valuable to have while on a cruise. I'm not just talking about people who want to do work on a cruise. Like checking Facebook, connecting with family and friends is still a fun thing to do, and internet access on a cruise is not included. Royal Caribbean offers unlimited internet packages that they call the VOOM packages, and they're available on board the ship. And it's really the only option if you want to stay connected. There's no complimentary or free Wi-Fi on the ship. Certainly, you could skip all this and just use your internet access when you're on port, like on land somewhere, and connect to a complimentary Wi-Fi area, maybe even use your international data roaming plans, but those aren't necessarily free. And even in places where the internet is free at one of these bars or restaurants, usually it's expected that you spending some money over there in order to gain access to the free internet, if that makes sense. In terms of how much an internet package is going to cost, well, it's probably about $19.99 per day per device for the duration of your cruise. And no, you can't cherry pick the days necessarily. You've got to do it for the length of your cruise. That's for one device, right? If you get more devices, like 2 or 4 devices, the price per day per device can go down a little bit. Like for a 4-device plan, it can be as low as $16.99 per day per device. You could wait to get on board the ship and get a 24-hour pass in which you, get internet access for 24 consecutive hours. And no, you don't get to like stop it here and then use it some other time. It's 24 consecutive hours. And in that situation, you can expect to pay about $29.99 per day per device. Something else you're going to want to factor into your cruise vacation costs are gratuities, because it's really important to account for tipping while on your cruise, because it really recognizes the hard work of the crew members on board. Royal Caribbean provides 2 easy ways to lock in gratuity: prepay or automatic gratuity on board. Now, if you're a resident of certain countries like Australia and New Zealand, don't worry, this is already baked into your cruise fare, so there's nothing extra to do here. The automatic service gratuity is $16 per day per person for junior suites and below. And if you're staying in a suite, like a grand suite and above, then you'll pay $18.50 per person per day for the cruise. The gratuity applies to individual guests of all ages and stateroom categories, and you do have the option of prepaying the gratuity, so that way it's part of your cruise fare and you're not getting assessed the charge every day of your cruise. These gratuities apply to your stateroom attendant as well as the dining room staff. But in addition to all that, you'll also be assessed an 18% gratuity automatically on all beverages, minibar items, and spa and salon purchases while on board the ship. Then, of course, we got to talk about, well, how much it's going to cost you to get to the actual cruise, because not everybody lives within driving distance of a cruise port. So another aspect of your cruise budget may be the cost of getting to and from your ship. Airfare, car rentals, taxis, and hotels should be checked prior to booking a cruise to give you an idea of a ballpark estimate of what to expect. Royal Caribbean does offer cruises from a wide variety of cities around the world, but it seems that most people have to travel to some extent to meet up with the ship. Now, I'm not an expert in finding low airfare prices or how to find a great deal in a hotel, but there are a lot of airfare tricks and tips that are out there. But when you plan a cruise vacation, you're going to want to look at that, especially if you live in somewhere like the Northeast of the United States, where maybe you could, drive to your cruise if your cruise goes out of the New York City, New Jersey area, as opposed to flying all the way down to Florida. But there are pros and cons to everything that are there. But these are costs you want to make sure you cover as well. And then there's all the incidental costs on board that just can be miscellaneous and really run the gamut of, some people may never incur these, and some may really run up the bill with them. We're talking about onboard photos, how much money you'll spend in the casino gambling, bingo, fitness classes, and of course, souvenirs. If you've been sitting there with your pencil and paper trying to come up with some sort of a ballpark estimate of how much a cruise is going to cost, you probably have a lot more questions still about how that's really going to be possible and what should you really expect. Ultimately, a lot of the total cost of your vacation does come down to discretionary spending. Do you want to do specialty dining? How many souvenirs are you going to buy? What kind of tours are you going to do? And a variety of other discretionary options in terms of what you're going to elect to purchase on your cruise can really drive the budget all over the place. Then, of course, you have the length of the cruise ship itself, and of course, the time of year. There's so many factors that really play into how much a cruise is going to cost you. I certainly can't anticipate how much money you'll spend in the casino or how much money you might spend on shore excursions or anything like that, but I'm trying to give you some ideas about how much a family cruise will cost you in terms of just the cruise fare and things that are absolutely included with the cruise fare. To give you a better idea, we've put together a family cruise budget in perspective and calculated a few sample cruises for the following itineraries: 3 and 4 night cruises, 6, 7, and 8 night cruises, and cruises only on the mega Oasis class ships only. The pricing is calculated based on 2 adults and 2 kids over the age of 2, interior cabins, taxes, fees, and does not include gratuities. We're looking for what are the best deals that are out there, and we did not price them during a kids sale free promotion. During a kids sale free promotion that Royal Caribbean has, you can actually expect to save several $100s in the cruise fare per child, but that can only be during certain times of the year. So I want to give you more of a, let's call it a worst case scenario. In terms of cabin choice, I have 2 pricing examples for booking a cruise cabin for a family, staying together in 1 interior cabin and booking 2 connecting interior cabins. There are many other serum categories to choose from when traveling with kids, certainly, but these 2 are generally always the most economical. These cruise fares were found on Royal Caribbean's website, but pricing is subject to change, and of course, by the time this video comes out, I am sure it has changed. What was cheap one day could be drastically different the next day, so don't be surprised to find varied pricing when you do the search on your own. So let's start with a cost of a cruise for a week-long sailing for a family of 4. A 6, 7, or 8-night cruise is really the standard length for a cruise vacation, and Royal Caribbean has plenty of ships sailing week-long itineraries at any given time. Many passengers will find week-long to be a great length because they give just enough time to get acquainted with the ship, visit a couple ports, and have time to relax without feeling really rushed. The price of a week-long cruise can vary dramatically depending on the month you sail. During the summer months, it can be hard to find a cruise for a family of 4 under $2,000. Off-season pricing, however, can really be budget-friendly, although it can be tricky to find a cruise under $2,000. So here's some examples. For peak season pricing, June as an example, on a 7-night cruise, Grandeur of the Seas in the Caribbean will cost you $2,571 for 1 room or $2,926 for connecting rooms. On Ovation of the Seas to Alaska, you can expect to pay $4,466 for 1 room or $5,690 for 2 connecting rooms. On Allure of the Seas back in the Caribbean, you'll expect to pay $3,285 for 1 room or $3,875 for 2 connecting rooms. Now, if you go off season for a 6, 7, or 8-night cruise, well, then the prices do go down quite a bit. On Voyager of the Seas for a 6-night Caribbean cruise, 1 room will be $1,655, whereas 2 connecting rooms can cost you $1,842. On Enchantment of the Seas for 8 nights to the Bahamas, from Baltimore, by the way, $2,082 for 1 room, $2,919 for 2 connecting rooms. And on Oasis of the Seas for a 7-night Caribbean cruise, you expect to pay $2,303 for 1 room or $2,830 for 2 connecting rooms. There you can see the big difference between going off peak or on peak. How about the cost of a short cruise, but maybe 2 to 5 nights for a family of 4? Shorter cruises will almost always have a lower cost than the week-long cruises out of the box. A variety of Royal Caribbean ships sail short cruise itineraries, but they're most commonly scheduled on Voyager and Freedom class ships. It's definitely possible to book a 3 or 4-night cruise for under $2,000 for a family, even during peak season. 4-night cruises are often cheaper than 3-night sailings, as they tend to fall midweek, like Monday to Friday, and therefore just have less demand. The caveat with short cruises is they often have a higher cost per night compared to the longer cruises, meaning you may get more bang for your buck on a 7-night cruise, even if the total cost is higher per person. That being said, here are a few prices you can expect for a short cruise. How about a 3-night weekend cruise during the peak summer season in June? On Independence of the Seas, which goes to the Bahamas, you'll expect to pay $1,818 for 1 room or $1,877 for 2 connecting rooms. On Navigator of the Seas out of Los Angeles to the west coast of Mexico, you'll pay $1,601 for 1 room or $1,895 for 2 connecting rooms. But on a 3-night weekend cruise during the off-season in February, well, Freedom of the Seas going to the Bahamas will cost you $1,277 for 1 room or $1,452 for 2 connecting rooms. Back in Mexico again, on Navigator of the Seas out of LA, you'll expect to pay $1,264 for 1 room or $1,062 for 2 connecting rooms. Okay, well, how about you're saying now, I want to go just on the Oasis class. I've seen these amazing ships, Wonder of the Seas, Harmony, Oasis, Allure. I want the best. Can I get the best value out of there, especially maybe even saving money and going for a family of 4 for under $2,000? Because after all, Oasis class cruise ships are the most amazing and popular Royal Caribbean cruise ships for families out there, offering a terrific array of family-friendly activities like water slides, zip lines, rock climbing, mini golf, sports court, float rider, and even a carousel. However, with high demand comes high prices, and cruising on an Oasis class ship will almost always be more expensive than a cruise on the same length and destination, and even same dates, as an older class of Royal Caribbean cruise ships out there. To get typical pricing for a family of 4 to sail on an Oasis class ship in peak season, I priced out all 5 Oasis class ships for a family of 4 on a 7-night cruise in July. Oasis of the Seas, $37.55 for 1 room, $58.30 for 2 connecting rooms. Allure to the Caribbean as well, $32.85 for 1 room, $38.75 for 2 connecting rooms. Harmony of the Seas, $45.72 for one room, $43.12 for two connecting. Symphony of the Seas, $52.95 for one room, $54.54 for two connecting rooms, and Wonder of the Seas, $57.83, $54.23 for two connecting rooms out there. Now, if you want to go on off season, how about a 7-night cruise during October, which is a great time of year to go because pricing is lower? Well, here are the prices for these same Oasis class cruise ships. $23.03 for one room on Oasis, $28.30 for two connecting rooms on Oasis. Over on Allure, $20.48 for one room, $22.79 for two connecting rooms. Harmony, $29.33 for one room, $32.73 for two connecting rooms. Symphony in Europe still will be $36.74 for one room, $46.15 for two connecting rooms, and Wonder of the Seas in the Caribbean, $36.67 for one room and $49.07 for two connecting rooms. As you can see, you're unlikely to find a 7-night cruise for under $2,000 on an Oasis class ship, especially in the peak summer season. Expect to pay about $3,000 to $5,000 for a family of 4 during this time of year. That being said, it is possible to find a cruise for around $2,000 during off-season if you can make it work with your kids' school schedules. You'll typically find the best pricing on Allure of the Seas, as this ship has not been amplified and is the only Oasis-class cruise ship without water slides, the ultimate abyss, and updated dining venues. Symphony and Wonder of the Seas usually have the highest pricing, as they are the two newest ships in the class. So there you have a look at the budgets of going on a cruise, and can you really get a great deal on a roller coaster cruise vacation? The answer is yes. It just kind of depends on some factors that are going to be ultimately up to you. When you go on the cruise, which ship you go on, and of course, how much discretionary spending you do. I think ultimately for most people, the issue is not necessarily the cruise fare. That's a big part of it, don't get me wrong. But it's going to be how much money will you spend on extra things there, especially dining, drink packages, shore excursions, Wi-Fi. There's lots of opportunities to make your budget grow. So plan ahead, budget accordingly, and I think you'll find a great value in going on a roller coaster cruise. Let me know in the comments below, how do you budget for your cruise, and what are some of your best tips for getting the best value out of a cruise vacation? Let me know down there below. And while you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.